Welcome back everybody. I hope you enjoyed that little montage of the Abyssal Demon absolutely wiping the floor with me. This episode might be a longer one than usual, because we got so much done after entering the Fractured Plains. We even venture forth into the Stormtouch Highlands and the Blight Swamp, as there were so many more upgrades that we needed to get before facing off with General Velgar. But first, before heading out completely, we made a small change to our gear, swapping out our reinforced helmet for the tier 2 mage hat. This meant we have to give up the 3-piece melee set bonus, but we benefit from the 1-piece mage set bonus, which is stamina regeneration, something that's quite valuable, I found. And before I forget, here is our starting total level at 352. Let's see where we end up by the end of this episode. With our gear sorted, it was finally time to return to the Fractured Plains. Compared to Bramblemead, everything here felt a bit more dangerous. The enemies hit a bit harder, and it became clear that we'd need to get stronger gear if we wanted to survive. That meant one thing, which was finding bronze. These little chinchompas explode if they get too close, and they take out quite a lot of your health bar. So it's really important that when we fight them, we keep them at a distance and stun them if they get too close. I found the wolves really fast and agile, especially when you're fighting them in packs. And lastly, the Garou inflict bleed damage if they hit you. The berserkers are also really aggressive and get right up in your face, whilst the hunter shoots you from the back. Didn't take long before we stumbled across our first copper deposit, hidden just beyond where we'd fought the terror birds. Tin soon followed, giving us everything we needed to begin forging bronze. And back at base, our first bronze bars opened the door to entirely new tiers of crafting. We mapped out the next stage of our workshop, but it quickly became clear we'd need far more bronze to bring it all to life. And of course that meant that we had to go back out and find more tin and copper. Fortunately, the Fractured Plains had more surprises waiting for us. Hidden behind one of the mountainsides near the start of the area was a cave full of ore deposits. But there was one issue. It was guarded by a Garou Thane who hit really hard. Whilst exploring, we also found another cave on the cliffside, also full of ore deposits, and you best believe we farmed these non-stop for all of our resources. Exiting the cave gave us this really good view of this tower. I wonder what it could be, as it's quite mysterious. With tons of bronze finally in hand, we could craft upgrades we'd been working towards. The bronze logging axe finally gave us access to the oak trees, while the two-handed sword made exploring the Fractured Plains a little less daunting. Its special spin attack makes crowd control so much easier, especially against the agile wolves. With the bronze logging axe, we immediately felled these two oak trees that were blocking our base. The oak logs it gave opened the door to even more progression, such as a better bed and a better cooking range, which we ended up building whilst waiting for more bronze to be smelted, so that we could build bronze armor and feel a little safer whilst exploring. At last, we had enough bronze and materials to craft our bronze armor. We built the chest piece and the plate legs. However, our upgraded helmet, or the hat, had to wait until we discovered what wild anima was. With our new gear ready, it was time to head back into the Fractured Plains. This time, we could explore without worrying about every single fight. Almost straight away, we came across a chest guarded by a group of enemies, with the hardest one being the direwolf. Clearing them out rewarded us with something I definitely wasn't expecting. It was the Chieftain's Sword Vestige, which looked pretty cool. And not far from there we found a strange stone beside a unique looking tree. Interacting with it kicked off the Heartstrings quest, sending us to track down more of these weird looking trees scattered around the world. Whilst trying to complete the quest, we didn't only just find the tree, we also finally found bark infused anima. And if I had to guess, this would be the thing that we need to create wild anima and craft all the magical gear back at base. We took a quick trip back to base as I had to see if the theory was right, and thankfully it was. The anima infused bark was exactly what we needed to craft the upgraded mage hat. With this finally created, we're fully tier 3 geared. Although it doesn't really go with our outfit. As we set off to find more of those unique trees to complete the quest, came across the entrance to the Blight Swamp. Curiosity got the better of me. I decided to have a quick look inside. I didn't want to venture any further because I wanted to get this quest complete and see what reward it gave us. And after almost forgetting, I put a lodestone down. However, I'd never realized that this whole time we were slowly getting poisoned by the environment. This definitely meant that we had to retreat away from the swamp. To keep things moving, I've skipped over a couple of other trees. After a bit more travelling, we were nearly at the last one. Before reaching the final tree, we stumbled across Doric, who offered us another quest. As tempting as it was, we'd already got enough to deal with. So the new quest, Granite Mold, would have to wait. With one final tree left to find, the Heartstrings quest was finally complete. Our reward was the Crystal Bow, giving us a welcome upgrade for ranged combat, and naturally, we had to try it out. Upon returning back to base, there was another upgrade that we got, the Chieftain's Blade. A one-handed weapon means that it's faster and we can also use a shield. There was still one fight that I had left unfinished in the Whispering Swamp, and I thought this would be a good time to test out the Chieftain's Blade. In the previous episode, we had avoided fighting the Abyssal Demon, but with our gear now upgraded, I felt like it was a good time to try, and I was feeling pretty confident about it. Maybe a little too confident. Yeah, he sent me back to Lumbridge. But we're gonna go again, and this time we've downloaded his moveset. With the Abyssal Demon defeated, it felt like the right time to head back into the Blight Swamp. This time, going prepared with anti-poisons. It was a good thing that we returned here because the swamp had a few new resources, such as silver ore, new herbs, and swamp weed growing within the poison. This is one of the core crafting materials that will take our gear to tier 4. As we explored the swamp, there was another Abyssal Demon waiting for us here. But after the previous fight, this one didn't cause nearly as much trouble. Not far from the fight, we came across an undead tree with blightwood roots. Unfortunately, the bronze axe wasn't strong enough to harvest them yet. We couldn't do much with this for now, and likewise with the bronze axe. Our bronze pickaxe wasn't strong enough to harvest the gold. But since we're already here, we may as well see what else we can find. Looking at the map, we spotted a vault in the southern part of the swamp, so we decided to make that our next objective. On the way there, we found another sanguine flask, followed by a Garu camp surrounding a massive tree. Rather than risk the fight, I decided to leave it for now and stick to the original plan of finding the vault. Unlike the other vaults that we've raided, this one was also poisonous inside. This room had a lot of enemies to clear out. It turns out they were protecting this dragonkin statue, which was holding a recipe for the wild archer helmet. Later on, amongst other dragonkin statues, we find the chest piece along with the legs. There was another surprise dragonkin statue, however this one had a riddle to provide it with a trophy from a monster. It turns out it wanted the abyssal spine from the Abyssal Demon. This unlocked for us the recipe to craft the Abyssal Whip. And with nothing else left in the vault, we went to the boss room and cleared it out before heading back to base. And of course, the first thing we did was craft that Abyssal Whip. Since the Blight Swamp couldn't take us any further just yet, we headed back to the Fractured Plains just to finish off a vault that we'd left behind. It proved to be a worthwhile stop, unlocking the Paladin armor recipe through the Dragonkin knowledge inside. This vault also introduced our first Fire Elemental Vault Guardian, which happened to be the boss. Once we had dealt with it, we were rewarded with another weapon recipe for a bow, but I don't think we'll be swapping to it, as I think the crystal bow outperforms it. Before leaving the Fractured Plains behind, there was one landmark we couldn't ignore. Ever since spotting the towering fortress from the cliffs earlier, I had been curious to see what was inside. What I wasn't expecting to find was Caffin, or at least his spirit. Unable to complete his mission, he entrusts us with the recipe to craft the challenge horn, an item we'd eventually need to summon Velgar ourselves to confront him. He tells us that he was captured by the Garu before he could even challenge Velgar, and they offered him as tribute. So he turned out to be pretty useless. But not completely useless, as he points us towards our next objective, somewhere within the storm-touched Highlands, and somewhere in the Blight Swamp. Since the swamp was a dead end until we can upgrade our tools, our next adventure takes us into the storm-touched Highlands in search of iron. Looking over the challenge horn recipe, we still needed a dragon tooth and bloodwood sap along with the 5 bronze bars which we have back at base. The Highlands introduced a whole new set of dangers, with tier 4 enemies roaming around the area, and constant lightning strikes forcing us to keep moving. On the plus side, iron ore was everywhere. So while we were here, we made sure to mine as much of it as we could. Eventually, we stumbled across exactly what we'd been looking for, a dragon skull. Unfortunately, our excitement didn't last long, as the bronze pickaxe wasn't strong enough to harvest the dragon tooth, meaning we'd have to return later with an iron pickaxe. Back at base, all of the iron ore was finally put to good use. We crafted the iron axe straight away, hoping we'd also be able to upgrade our pickaxe. Unfortunately, the pickaxe needed blightwood to craft, so we'd have to make one more trip back to the Blight Swamp. So we spent the rest of our iron upgrading our gear, crafting the paladin chest piece and legs, and we were finally able to upgrade our hat into a mage hood, making us look a bit more cooler and a lot less goofy. With our equipment now at tier 4, we were finally ready to head back into the swamp. We return back and make short work of the Abyssal Demon here. Our priority right now was collecting blightwood. As soon as we collected enough, we returned back to base and made our anti-dragon shield, along with the iron pickaxe. This should now let us mine gold and that dragon tooth in the storm-touched Highlands. We head back to the swamp once more to finish the Dragon Slayer quest marker, which led us back to that ruined Garu camp that we had passed earlier. After clearing it out, we harvested the massive bloodwood tree to finally get the bloodwood sap, one of the core ingredients of a challenge horn. And before leaving, we discovered a hidden chest behind a crumbling wall, which contained the unique Blood Blight cape. We spent the rest of the time mining gold ore, hoping to also find sapphire so that we could craft the Staff of Light, before heading back to the storm-touched Highlands for the dragon tooth. This time we had the right tools for the job. Back at base, we could finally craft the challenge horn. We'd also managed to find the sapphires we were looking for, meaning we could also craft a Staff of Light as well. With Abyssal Whip, Staff of Light, and Crystal Bow, along with a full set of upgraded gear, there was only one thing left to do, and that was to challenge Velgar on top of his tower. We've come a long way since arriving in the Fractured Plains. After upgrading every piece of our gear, crafting the challenge horn, and preparing for the fight ahead, there was nothing left to do but face Velgar. Next time, we'll challenge Velgar and discover what lies beyond the Fractured Plains. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a like, and if you'd like to follow the adventure, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next episode. I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers!